Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up in our news tonight. A man is dead following a homicide in the Village Road area. Another man is shot after several bus drivers are held up. Bahamian track athletes debut at Tokyo Olympics. Plus, we'll tell you how many Bahamians are without electricity. A little later, Bahamian beauty queen debuts in Poland. We have the details straight ahead. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Georgie O'Bain. Topping news tonight. Police here in the capital busy at the onset of the Emancipation Day holiday weekend as officers are called to a homicide in the Village Road area this afternoon.
The information we have thus far is that this male was walking west on Sandilands Village Road when a silver vehicle pulled up and the occupants of that vehicle opened fire on him, hitting him to the body, causing injuries. We are appealing to the members of this community and the wider public that if they have any information relative to this latest homicide, please feel free to come forward to the police as their information will be held in the strictest of confidence.
And one man is in hospital and another in police custody after two men robbed multiple bus drivers at gunpoint, making off with hundreds of dollars. Assistant Commissioner of Police Craig Stubbs says officers were quick to respond.
A male public service driver presented himself to the South Central Division, Grove Station, and reported that he was robbed by a gunman while he was traveling his route not along Blue Road in the vicinity of the National Insurance Board. Shortly, while he's making that report, the police control room received another report of another public service driver who was robbed in the South Central Division on the Carmichael Road corridor. Responding units would have set up a road check where they encountered two males fitting the description on a moped.
According to Stubbs, police engaged the suspects who attempted to get away, and a chase ensued from Fire Trail Road to Hamster Road.
Through the high perimeter wall of adjacent property, they could not scale that perimeter wall. One of the individuals would have brandished a black firearm that he would have pointed in the direction of the officers. The officers in fear would have engaged the suspect, and he was shot to his right thigh. EMS was summoned to the scene where they would have transported that individual to PMH to seek further medical assistance. The second suspect was taken into custody and transported to the Southwestern Division, Carmichael Station.
The second individual was later transported to the Central Detective Unit for questioning. However, Stubbs is confident that police caught the men responsible for the robberies.
In making checks of the suspect that brandished the weapon, officers recovered a large amount of cash that may have been stolen from both public service drivers. Based on the evidence we would have received or based on the report they would have made, the amount of funds that recovered would have appeared to be what was taken from those both individuals at the time of the armed robbery.
In March, bus drivers lamented their fares as several bus drivers had fallen victim to armed robbery. One of the drivers was even shot by an assailant. Stubbs encourages bus drivers not to take matters into their own hands.
No need to be a hero. Just observe, take note, notify the police right away. Because of their quick response in notifying the police, the result today is both individuals were apprehended. So this is the positive result of when you notify the police in a timely manner of an event such as this.
Well, more than 3 months after 6 men were killed in a shooting at Jerome Avenue, the police commissioner says investigators are still looking for the suspects. When asked for an update on the shooting, which also left a woman and a 2-year-old girl injured, Rolls said this.
No, it's no update. I gave you all already. I'm not going to keep talking about that until we complete what we are going to do. As you know, I indicated numerous times that we have identified the persons and we're looking for them. I don't want to give names because you know the nature of the beast.
The men who were recently released from police custody were killed at the intersection of Jerome Avenue and Chesapeake Road. Police say the men were traveling on Jerome Avenue in a Honda Inspire when 4 men dressed in black exited a white Kia Sportage and opened fire on them. Bahamians heating up the track as athletes take the spotlight at 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Our Marcellus Hall is in Tokyo and has the latest.
Welcome to Our Sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Sports brought to you here in Tokyo by our good friends over at J.S. Johnson. Well, today marked day 8 in these Olympic Championships, and as the competition ratcheted up, so did the number of Bahamians in competition atmosphere. Today, 4 Bahamians taken to the track, and we'll see exactly how they did as they took to the field first in the 100-meter hurdles. Women's 100-meter hurdles taking place center stage for Team Bahamas today. Both Devin Charlton and Padria Seymour looking to advance to the second round. Charlton would take the track first, running in Heat 3 out of lane 9. Charlton not running one of her better races, however. She struggled a bit out of the blocks before rallying to fight her way back into the race, finishing 4th in 12.84 seconds, advancing to round 2. Afterwards, she talked about the race and possible adjustments moving forward.
I didn't think that was a good one. The execution definitely wasn't there. I think I kind of fell asleep in the block, so I had a lot of ground to make up, and at that point, race execution and game plan, all that kind of went out the window, and I was just running for position. Right now, definitely go and look and see what went wrong in the blocks. If I need to refocus, just look at film, see if anything I need to fix technically. Like you said, I did get the automatic qualifier, so no need to panic, just I have a lot to fix, and I think it'll be better tomorrow.
Padria Seymour up next as she set up in lane 7 in Heat 4. As was the case for Charlton, Seymour struggling a bit, but managing to stay strong enough down the stretch to also finish 4th in a time of 13.04 seconds. Seymour, who has made an Olympic final before, says while confident, knows it now comes down to execution.
I'm confident, but, it doesn't, no spot is guaranteed. No spot on the podium is guaranteed. Everyone got to work. Every person that line up in that race, whether they make it to the semis or not, we all have a story and we all work hard. I don't think no one outworks anyone. We all work hard. So it's just about who shows up at this meet.
Tania Gaither back on the track for the semifinal round of the women's 100. Gaither would be in Heat 1 along with Jamaican Elaine Thompson-Herrera and Great Britain's Dina Asher-Smith. Gaither setting up in lane 3 would finish 6th in this one in 11.31 seconds. She unfortunately bowing out of the competition. Meanwhile, Samson Colebrook, the first Bahamian male to take the track. Colebrook running in Heat 2 of the men's 100 meters round 1. Out of lane 5. He would have some issues at the start, was never in the race, settling for 7th in 10.33 seconds. Colebrook says his focus now on next year's World Championships.
Man, it was good now. Stumble at the blocks again, but not worried about it. I know for next year what to work on and what to build towards now that happened, I know I get to work on. But I'm excited, not upset at all. First Olympics, so you live and you learn.
So as the evening draws in, day 8 comes to a close. Congratulations to the Bahamians that did compete today. We'll have some more coming your way tomorrow. That's your check on sports here in Tokyo. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Cheer on our Bahamian athletes with live coverage from Tokyo on Rev Channel 212, 243, and 244. Also check the R Facebook page for the latest updates. Well, fewer than 3,000 households across the country are without electricity, according to statistics released by BPL executives who say that they are doing what they can to keep cost of electricity down as the summer demand increases. Our Jasmine Brown reports.
So in terms of service accounts, the last we had was under 3,000 that are currently not on the grid. I think what we have seen with the new rates is that number has dropped drastically. And so we're proud that not only people are being able to take advantage of consuming a little bit more power, the load, as you mentioned, is getting really high. Certainly, we typically see about 250 megawatts this time of the year. For peak, which typically happens in the August time frame. We're already seeing 245 in July. And so that's an indication that not only are people going back to normality in terms of what they're consuming, but folks feel very comfortable that they can pay their bills.
The figure is slightly less than what was reported by BPL last October. At the time, BPL said that up to October 23, 2020, over 3,000 customers were disconnected. It represented 2,542 residential customers and 469 other customers. BPL Chairman Dr. Donovan Moxey insisted they are determined to keep the bills as low as possible.
So when you look at the electricity bill, I mean, you have to look at a couple of components here as well, because you got to think about what our strategy is with BPL. So what we've been able to do on the bill is we've been able to go in and essentially reduce the fuel cost by engaging in hedging. Hedging, from our perspective as this board, now we don't know what future boards may do, is a part of the overall continued strategy in terms of how we operate the company. So we see hedging going on throughout. So that fuel cost will remain low and consistent with whatever the market prices are in terms of how we conduct the hedging. When you now look at how keeping the rest of the costs low, what our strategy is this. Right now, our rate is set by IRCA, and we can't adjust that rate without conducting the appropriate rate case. From our perspective, given the fact that we're going out, raising the money for the rate reduction bond, of course, that's going to translate as a NUIT charge. We want to keep whatever our costs are associated with running the organization as low as possible.
Moxey added that they are also trying to keep rates as low as possible for as long as possible.
When we talk about the cost reductions, when we talked about the improvement in efficiencies, what we're trying to do is, given the rate that IRCA allows us to charge, is essentially to increase that margin that we have now and be able to better manage the costs so that that margin stays as wide as it possibly can over the long term. And Bahamians will benefit from, again, having lower rates or not having to go to IRCA for us to raise the rates. That's one of the reasons why, too, we're also wanting to engage in a PPA deal. Because within a PPA arrangement, you actually fix your generation costs for a long time. So when we talk about cost control, that's all a part of our strategy here, is making sure that we keep rates as low as we possibly can and then keep them low for as long as we possibly can through really becoming more efficient in how we run the organization and more cost effective with respect to how we spend the maintenance dollars.
Reporting for Art News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
President of the Bahamas Nurses Union, Amantia Williams, is demanding an update on the status of several wards at Princess Margaret Hospital that have been closed for months pending upgrades and renovations.
And we've complained about just the mere fact that you've gutted out all of these wards empty and you have not repaired. And when you do go back to repair, it's taking you almost 2 to 3 years to repair one ward. Some wards have been out from 2000, probably 2015. Okay, and there's no need to. When you have 30 admissions.
Williams says with several other wards closed at PMH due to COVID-19 exposure, it would be in the government's best interest to re-engage those renovations now.
How long children's ward has been out? We've got, that doesn't think that's even 18 by 20 room that is hosting children's ward for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. When we have a whole ring that's out that can hold up to 40 patients, and children need their space because they're playing. Could you imagine children's ward that's been out? I want to hear what the proposal was from Disney World. I've yet to say what happened to the funding.
The Nurses Union president says the state of the hospital prior to COVID-19 wreaked havoc on the health of many nurses, and now the situation is only escalating.
The building is old. Yes, we're doing renovations and so forth, but it really, we do need, I agree with the activists, we do need a new hospital. As Bahamians, we need to really get serious, We really need to get serious. We only make noise when it happens to our relatives.
Well, still to come on Our News Weekend, church services now limited to 60 minutes, but at what cost? Plus supply and demand of funeral and burial services. The breakdown after this.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
With religious services now limited to 1 hour amid increasing COVID-19 cases, one church leader says he thinks many are going to have a hard time squeezing the whole service into 60 minutes. Bahamas Faith Ministries International Senior Pastor David Burrows says it's going to be extremely difficult, but BFM and other churches will have to try their best to comply.
I doubt that any church or most churches end up at exactly 1 hour. I don't know. But I would seriously doubt, because it's very constraining for what a normal service looks like. So if your service is normally 2 hours and you have to shrink everything to 1 hour, then it really limits what you can do. So, it's a matter of adjustment. But I think the key is let's work together.
Following the health minister's announcement that church services would be limited to 1 hour, the religious community hit back, with Bahamas Christian Council President Delton Fernando asserting that the state cannot dictate to the church. Fernando has said that he will seek a meeting with the Prime Minister. Burrows says while the church is not fighting the government on the issue, there should have been some consultation.
In the Bible, it says if you are a believer, that you are supposed to obey those in authority. That means is you obey the authority if they don't violate the tenets of the laws of God. So basically, in certain cases, the state in critical times can implement things that affects everyone, and the church just happens to be a part of it. But it's a delicate balance, and it's important that's why consultation is so important,
Well, funeral directors are taking a hard hit during the pandemic, according to the president of the Funeral Directors Association, who says the cost of doing business has increased. With hundreds of people dying from COVID-19, caskets are becoming more difficult to acquire.
The cost has increased exponentially for us as caregivers, from healthcare concerns to also ordering caskets and the like. This pandemic has put a full strain on funeral service across the world. The major hub for all of our caskets and supplies is out of the U.S. Looking at what is happening in the U.S. right now, they are severely strained on releasing resources to anyone other than funeral homes in the U.S. So it's a constant challenge for us. We have been able to source our caskets from elsewhere at a higher cost, but because our clients need to be served, we do not pass that cost directly on to our clients. We absorb a lot of that.
As some families struggle to bury their loved ones during the economic crisis, Ferguson says they try to keep costs low for clients. However, they're sometimes operating at a loss.
And the government's financial responsibility in terms of bringing in revenue, but this further exacerbates the hardship that Bahamian families are faced with. Funeral prices, shipping costs, and VAT. That's a double dagger of financial hardship at this time.
If you're planning on flying to the United States this summer, you will now have to arrive to the airport with your negative COVID-19 test results before checking in. Today was the last day for on-site COVID-19 testing at Lynden Pinling International Airport. A negative COVID-19 test is required for all passengers ages 2 and up for traveling to the U.S. When our news weekend comes back, why one outspoken former F&M supporter says he'll be backing the opposition this election, plus breaking the walls of silence around uterine fibroids. The details when our news weekend returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Welcome back to R News. Thanks for staying with us. Well, former Senator Rodney Monker says this election he will not be going to the beach on Election Day. Rather, he will support the Progressive Liberal Party at the polls. In the weeks leading up to the 2017 general election, he pushed a campaign calling for all Bahamians to go to the beach instead of casting a vote.
In the last election, I registered, but as everybody ought to remember, I did not vote. I went to the beach. I must confess that I'm still a member of the F&M. But in the last election, I could not support my party leader.
Monker has been at odds with the FNM for several years. In 2016, after leaving the Democratic National Alliance, he ran for the position of chairman at the Free National Movement. He lost that race to Sidney Colley. Monker says this time around he will be heading to the polls. Well, studies have shown that black women are nearly 3 times as likely to suffer from uterine fibroids. Here in the Bahamas, doctors have found that there are many factors that affect fibroids and their growth, but there is definitely a genetic component to the diagnosis.
The fibroids that I find in our population, they tend to err on the larger side. And so those tend to really push ladies more towards surgical management. And we know that they will grow, if you leave them for a period of time, that they'll grow anywhere from 10 to 20% over a 6-month period.
July is Fibroid Awareness Month, shattering the walls of silence and stigma. Well, what about the risk factors? Well, is your mother or sister, do they have fibroids? Well, its chances are that you may too. Obesity and diet also play a role. Studies find that more fruits and vegetables incorporated in your diet could translate to a slower growing of fibroids. Drinking more than several alcoholic beverages a week can also increase your risk. Dr. Charmaine Bodie says that very often, treatment options will improve a woman's quality of life once she decides to take action.
The very often response I get after, they've dealt with the issue is that there's a sense of relief in that they've been able to put that past them and they're able to move on with their lives.
Dr. Bodie reminds women to talk to their doctors if they experience symptoms and side effects of fibroids. Well, up next on our News Weekend, our Naisha Tillis takes Poland at the Miss Supernational pageant. The details after this. Stay with us.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Well, after 10 years in pageantry, one beauty queen is heading to Poland to compete in the Miss Supernational pageant. Our Jillian Gray shares her inspiring story of triumph.
So I moved to Nassau with $10 in my pocket, and I would have never thought that that girl with $10 would be standing here right now about to represent a country. And so it's just a matter of just taking the leap of faith.
She's no stranger to pageantry, having competed in Miss UB, Miss World Bahamas, and Miss Bahamas Universe twice. Naisha Tillis says she's ready to take on her first international pageant, Miss Supernational.
I'm excited about the entire journey and pageantry generally for me because it's been a long time coming. It's been 10 years since my very first pageant. So to end it with a bang, it's exhilarating.
Her story is one of resilience. Tillis, a native of Abaco, came from humble beginnings, some days struggling to find food and at times sleeping on plastic. It's her story of overcoming difficult times that she's hoping would inspire the masses, both at home and internationally.
A living testimony, in a sense, to encourage others to be like you or be what they want to be, and that's what I hope to do, just show persons that it's possible. Even being a girl from the mud. Would have never thought a girl like me would have this opportunity with all of the stereotypes and the stigma associated to being of Haitian descent and being from the mud to be someone representing, once again, a country. So just looking at the fact that how you start doesn't determine how you'll finish is something that I would love to just continue to echo.
Tillis is the first Miss Supernational Bahamas, having applied for the pageant void of a national pageant director. She's hoping this new way of entering an international pageant would yield a victory and has put together a dream team to help her achieve that goal.
Literally going to Europe with everything local, and I'm so excited and grateful to showcase what the Bahamas has to offer. We would have never thought that I'd be going there honestly and truly with an authentic local cosmetic line like Tyra and True Beauty Cosmetics, Chantel O'Brien, runway coach based here in the Bahamas, Theodore Elliott, who will be doing my evening gown, Christina Fernandez, my costume, and I can go on and on and on about local designers, local talent, local retailers. And I'm just excited to show the world what the Bahamas has to offer.
Grand Bahama business owner Thyra Johnson says she was ecstatic to work with Tillis and offer her truly Bahamian cosmetic line.
Beauty being a very costly industry, I was very excited to assist her there. And I think it means a lot for Bahamian brands because, you know, sometimes we automatically just think about the Bahamas. We don't think internationally sometimes, you know? And so if someone can see that, hey, she did it, she's not even living in Nassau, she's living in Grand Bahama, and she's able to collaborate with people in Nassau and go to international events. So if she can do it, I can do it too. So I think it's a big step for Bahamian brands.
You can support Tillis on August 21st as the pageant will be streamed live from Poland. Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jillian Gray.
Well, the RTV team extends congratulations to this week's winner of the True Bahamian Treasure Hunt. Well, thank you for joining us for Our News Weekend. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Georgia O'Bain, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.